Have you ever stared at your screen right at the market open and just felt completely lost in the chaos? Well, you're not alone. Today, we're going to dig into a framework designed to bring order to that chaos, to turn all that noise into clear, structured intelligence. We'll even see how it holds up in different markets all across the world. It's really the million-dollar question, isn't it? Every single day, we get hit with this fire hose of information. Price swings, news events, crazy volatility. And the real trick isn't just trying to keep up. It's about finding a way to actually make sense of it all, so you can make clear, objective decisions without getting swept away by the current. And this is usually where we trip up, right at the beginning. The market gaps way up or way down. And what's our first instinct? It's almost always an emotional one. We immediately jump to a conclusion. Oh, it's going to be a bull day, or this thing is crashing, often with nothing to back it up but a gut feeling. This framework we're looking at was built specifically to stop that from happening. So, what's the antidote to that emotional gut feel reaction? You fight it with a system, a structured, rule-based framework that is designed from the ground up to replace all that guesswork with clear, objective, and repeatable analysis. Let's walk through it. This right here is the whole goal, and I want you to notice the keywords: explainable intelligence. This system is not trying to be a crystal ball. It's not about predicting the future. It's all about taking that messy, raw, chaotic price action and translating it into clearly defined market states that we can actually understand and work with. Now, to do that, the system has to follow four, let's call them non-negotiable principles. First, absolutely no predictions. Second, no repainting. This one's huge. It means the system can't go back and change its past analysis to make itself look smarter in hindsight. What you saw is what you get, period. Third, it's designed to filter out emotional bias. And finally, everything, and I mean everything, is 100% rule-based. That's what gives it its integrity. Okay, so how does it actually achieve this clarity? Well, it uses four distinct but totally integrated layers of analysis. You can almost think of it like a detective building a case, where each layer adds a new and deeper piece of evidence to the investigation. Let's break down each one. Here's our roadmap for this investigation. First, we define the battlefield before the market even opens. Then, once the action starts, we classify the market's real-time character. After that, we put any pullbacks to the test to see if they're legit. And finally, we wrap it all up with a simple visual layer for context. See how each step builds on the last one? It's a really logical flow. So, layer one is critical, and here's why. It does all its work before the opening bell. It creates a map of the key support and resistance zones ahead of time. That way, when you get that big opening gap, the system isn't just guessing. It has predefined levels it can use to objectively measure if that gap is being accepted by the market or if it's being flat out rejected.
And this is where you really see its power. We're looking at 3 different markets on the very same day. In Brazil, you have a gap up that runs right into a resistance wall and fails. That's an immediate sign of weakness. Over in Canada, a gap down gets bought up right at a key support level, stabilizing the structure. And then in the US, a gap down just kind of fizzles, with every attempt to rally getting stuffed. 3 totally different situations, all read objectively by layer 1.
All right, with our initial map set, layer 2 kicks in to classify the character of the market as it's evolving in real time. Using a strict set of rules, it starts labeling the state as either bullish, neutral, or bearish. And this isn't just about price going up or down, it's about understanding the underlying strength or weakness of those moves. So let's check back in with our 3 markets. That initial weakness in Brazil, it just got worse, evolving into a sustained bearish state. But Canada, which also started weak, did a complete 180 and flipped into a stable, bullish structure. And the US market? Well, it tried to bounce but could only muster a shift from bearish to neutral. It never found any real strength. Now, layer 3 gets into the real nitty-gritty. We all know markets don't move in a straight line, right? They pull back, they take a breath. This layer is designed to answer one of the most important questions a trader can ask. Is this pullback just a healthy pause in a trend, or is it the beginning of a serious structural breakdown? It's all about validating that trend's integrity. And the results tell the story perfectly. In Brazil, every little attempt to rally was met with selling, a classic sign of distribution. But in Canada, the pullbacks held right at key levels, confirming it was a healthy, continuing uptrend. And back in the US, the bounces just had no power behind them, which just reinforced that story of unresolved weakness. So the final layer, layer 4, is all about bringing everything together into one simple, powerful visual. It uses these background cloud formations, red for weakness, green for strength, to give you an at-a-glance summary of the dominant pressure. Now, it's not a buy or sell signal. Think of it more like a weather map for the market. And just as you'd expect, the visuals line up perfectly with our step-by-step investigation. You've got this dominant red cloud hanging over both Brazil and the US, visually confirming that persistent weakness. But look at Canada. That green cloud just keeps expanding all day, showing you that the market was accepting higher prices and the recovery was for real. Okay, I know that was a lot to take in. So to help make all of this stick, let's use an analogy. I want you to think of this entire 4-layer system as the toolkit that a bridge inspector uses. It's a really simple way to remember how each piece works together. So, layer 1, our opening structure. That's the inspector's blueprint. Before any traffic is allowed on the bridge, the inspector knows exactly where every critical support pillar is located. Those pillars are our predefined support and resistance zones. Layer 2, the bias classification. Think of those as the live sensors built right into the bridge. They aren't just counting cars. They're measuring the actual load and stress on the structure in real time. Is the load light, normal, or dangerously heavy? In other words, is the market state bullish, neutral, or bearish? Layer 3, where we validate those pullbacks, that's the inspector's crack check. The inspector gets up close, tops the concrete, and figures out if a tiny crack is just a cosmetic issue, like a healthy pullback, or if it's a sign of a deep structural failure that could lead to a catastrophic breakdown. And finally, layer 4, our visual cloud. That's like the inspector's thermal heat map. It gives an immediate, high-level picture of where all the stress is concentrated on the bridge, instantly confirming everything the detailed sensor readings and crack checks have been saying. So when you put all of these layers, all of these tools together, you get this incredible transformation. You go from just staring at random, chaotic noise to actually interpreting structured, explainable intelligence. I mean, think about what we just saw. This system was put to the test against 3 completely different, pretty complex market scenarios, all on the same day. A gap up that failed, a gap down that recovered, and another gap down that just went nowhere. And here is the most important part of this whole thing. The system interpreted all 3 of those unique stories using just one analytical engine. It didn't need to change its rules or get re-optimized for each market. That, right there, is the proof of its robustness. It's what allows it to provide objective clarity no matter what the market decides to throw at you. And that really leaves us with one last big question to think about. We spend so much energy worrying about the market's chaos, but what if the biggest risk we face as traders isn't actually out there in the market at all, but in here, in the flawed, emotional, and biased way we choose to interpret it?
This is the brief on the Structured Intraday Intelligence Framework for Global Markets. So, what is this thing really? Well, it's a cutting-edge system that takes all that raw, volatile, intraday price movement from places like Brazil, Canada, and the US and turns it into structured, explainable intelligence. And the best part? It does it all without relying on prediction or emotional bias. First, the framework is fundamentally non-predictive and completely rule-based. Its main job is to set up predefined structural zones, like pivots or support and resistance, before the market opens. This helps validate or reject any early opening gaps, which gets rid of those premature directional assumptions. Second, the system works as a 4-layered analytical framework. It starts by defining the initial environment. Then it figures out the evolving state. Is it bullish, neutral, or bearish? Then it validates whether a pullback is healthy or a real breakdown. And finally, it visualizes the dominant pressure using simple red and green cloud formations. And finally, the real value here is its global consistency. We're talking about the same integrated non-repainting logic, successfully reading 3 completely different outcomes in diverse global markets on the same